Hello, everybody, and welcome to A Man Who Truly Delivers, the second episode. And we're so glad you could join us on this March 19th as a little cool here in Nashville, Tennessee. And we've got a special show, and we're so glad you could join us. A lot going on in telecom right now. And we got a guy that's been moving around a lot, and he's our special guest for today's show. And he comes to us from Birmingham, Alabama, but he is not in Birmingham, Alabama. He's actually riding around, but we're going to find out more about that. But we're going to find out more about him. But works for an engineering company out of Birmingham. We come to there with a very colorful character, John Hester. How you doing, John?
Hey, Stuart, what's up, man?
Hey, it's good to talk to
Doing
you.
well today, fella.
Yeah, yeah. So, John, where are you right now?
I'm in Hoover, Stuart. I had a site walk yesterday in Columbus, Mississippi. I got back late last night, so trying to catch up on some things today. Around Hoover, around the office and whatnot.
So, in a site walk and everything, let's talk about that. Let's just take that as topic number one.
Okay,
So,
sure,
before we start, let's
sure.
do a little background. So,
Okay.
so born and raised in Bessemer. Some people know that you've been in telecom for a long time. Why don't you just kind of take it from there?
Yeah. I was raised in Bessemer. Went to Bessemer Academy. Graduated in 1990, and got fortunate enough to get a golf scholarship at the University of Montevallo. And my aspirations were to play college golf and maybe one day try to get on the tour. But played for 4 years, had a great career, 4 year Letterman, enjoyed it, and just didn't really know what I wanted to do after that. Went into business school, marketing, finance, even thought about being a stockbroker because obviously everybody knows me. I like to talk, kind of like you, brother. And my mother went to work for a surveying company over the summer after my senior year, and she said, "Hey, why don't you come work here a little bit? You can still play golf in the afternoon and practice or on the weekend." So I did it, and I really didn't know what surveying was. Thought it was somebody taking pictures like everybody else did back then. You look through your scope. We call it a gun, but they call it a scope now. And just fell in love with it. It was like every day story I went to work. It was like putting a puzzle together. And I like math. I'm good in math, and I like that kind of subject. Didn't even know anything about it. Fell in love with it. Decided to stay with it, and met Michael Davis shortly after that. He and I became best friends, and I mean it's almost history after that. We worked for a company for 3 years in Pelham, and then got the opportunity to start working with Will Somerville in February of '99, and that's when the traveling really began. I mean, I never left Shelby County and Jefferson County for 3 years surveying at the other company, and found out that Mr. Somerville, well, everybody knows him as Will. Will's like, "Hey, I got a Gulf Shores office down at the beach. We do this, we do that. We're starting to get into telecom." Didn't even know what really telecom was. I had a beeper at the time, and we started doing cell tower surveys. I brought Michael on board with me. Actually, I got him hired about 2 months after me, so we've been there 22 years. And we started traveling, and we got to go to South Alabama. Then we started going to Tennessee, and Will got licensed in Mississippi. And we thought it was the greatest thing to get paid, to leave from Birmingham to drive to the beach and work for 4 days and come back on the weekend. And it kind of snowballed from there. We surveyed for several years, and then we brought the engineering company on board probably around, I think it was '03 or over 15 years ago. Obviously, they work in tandem with one another. The engineering kind of fed some work. We fed the work to them initially by doing the surveying. Then obviously now our engineering company has grown we have four engineering departments across the United States, pretty much. With our four main offices. Well, yeah, and so that's really where we are today. With Michael took over as president about 8 years ago. We had 45 employees. We were still mainly in Birmingham. Now we've got a Tampa office and the Texas office, and now we have 100 and I think almost 150 employees. Don't know the exact number, but I would say it's close to 150. And here we are.
And you just kind of worked into the back door of this industry, didn't you, John? I mean, through your hard work and what you were
Oh
already
yeah,
doing out there. I mean, you just kind of worked into the back
yeah.
door. You didn't like wake up one day and say, "I want to be in telecom," or "I want to be, do,
No,
you know."
No, no, not at all. Man, Will Somerville had joined a relationship with Troy Peter, who's working at Vertical Bridge, and Greg Clements and Paul Beasley. I know you know those guys, Foresight. And we started doing. They formed a relationship, a friendship. Said, hey, we've got cell towers, and back then obviously it was all macro. And Will's like, hey, I'm a surveyor. We'd like to get your survey business. We didn't even think about engineering, and he formed that relationship. Michael and I started getting involved. Michael and I were still out in the field as party chiefs, but we went to events. I got involved in the Alabama Wireless and the Tennessee Wireless golf tournaments, which I believe are the very first two. I know Tennessee was, and started doing that and got to meet people by my ability to play golf, and that led me to other contacts, to more people, new relationships, new friendships. Hey, we do surveying. Well, hey, can you do my sites in Tennessee? Are you licensed in Georgia? What part of Mississippi do you come? Can you come? And that that just kind of snowballed. One event after another, and Michael and I and Will went as well a lot. We all three went. We were marketing together, and then then like I said, in about '03 we started doing engineering, and it just kind of fell into place from that. We, believe it or not, Stuart, we used to talk. Like, hey, we want telecom to only be 25% of our business, because we want to do boundaries and as-built, because that's what surveyors do. The boundary work, getting in the woods, cutting the line, showing people where their property lines are, staking out houses, staking out roads. And then I remember we had a meeting. Hey, well, we only want it to be 50%. Well, we only want it to be, let's don't go above 75%. I mean, and it just kept feeding, that with telecommunications, it just got crazy. 2G, 3G. Everybody's got a cell phone. Everybody, today they do, and iPads and whatnot. And you got to be online, and in the rural areas as well. And so, really, to tell you the truth, I would say it's at least 90% of our business. I mean, we still do some conventional surveying and engineering. We have some subdivisions that we work at, but obviously it's rare. Telecom is what we are. The majority of our business is.
Well, and John, you bring up a great point. So, it's all these different types of surveys and different things that people may need, whether it be a small business or even somebody, wanting to buy a piece of property next door to the property they have, and they want to develop it, or let's say lake property. Boy, you could write a book on lake property, couldn't you? I mean, because you got to think about, okay, if I'm going to build a cabin, where am I? If you don't have power and water, you got to bring that utilities kind of in at the same time, and that survey's going to come in important, isn't it, John?
Yeah, it's very important. I mean, it's like the cell towers. When we do our easements, let's say a raw piece of land, let's say a macro site, conventional macro site, and how it is. They've got 10 acres, and of course the landowner, he wants it in the back corner, right? He doesn't want it, where his house next to the road. He wants it in the back corner so he can get an access road, and he can use it for hunting one day or going back and walking his property. And so you take the utilities down that easement, a 30-foot easement. Usually you got your road, 10 or 12 feet wide, and you use the utilities. We're trying to do underground, but obviously, where there's locations where you got outcrop, you go overhead. It's cheaper to go overhead, of course. And they go down the easement. And same way in property and surveying, if you had lake property, the big thing you really have to deal with that I've seen, though, you have to deal with water, where the flood line is, where the flood zone is, because with the lakes in Alabama, it's an elevation. So we got GPS, and it's, hey, you can't go above the 700 elevation. Okay, so you got to build your cabin or house or whatever, above that line. And everything else is controlled by Alabama Power or TVA, whoever's controlling the body of water. So that's a little different with lake property, but the utilities, where they're going to come, if it's out in the woods, they're going to come down that access. You don't want to have to cut another line to bring power in or telephone, right? You just want to come down the access, just like a cell tower does, too. And unless it's, there's obviously different, if it's a wide open field, we have brought power from other locations if power is already existing, of course. If it's a transformer right there 100 feet off the property that we can tie into, sure. But we'll bring the telephone or whatever else we need to. I guess it's really just telephone, because they'll put propane or whatever they need for the generator, in case the power goes out. But, that's what I was saying. It's each job. It's like a puzzle, and that's why I enjoyed doing it. And when I became a party chief, and I mean, when I was just a rodman or looking through the gun, I mean, that's when Michael and I met. Hell, we had a party chief. Michael was out. He was the grunt. I mean, he was out in the woods cutting line. I'm sitting behind the instrument, just chilling, hanging out. Michael was having to cut line. You work your way up. You start on the low on the totem pole. You go to the instrument, in the surveying department. You become a party chief. But when you become a party chief, hey, that's when all the responsibility's on you. It doesn't matter if your guy left a piece of equipment or you did something. Hey, you have to take responsibility, and it teaches you. I don't want to leave this cell site. Did I get everything right? Did I tie down the boundary? Did I stake it out correctly? Especially if it's a guy tower. Did I slope stake it? Did I get enough topo for the engineer? And those little things. I had a little checklist that I went through every day. But every site store was pretty much different, and that's what I enjoyed about it. And that's what surveying kind of is. You just have to have a good concept, make a plan, stick to it. Things change, we understand, especially if you get out there and they want to build a self-support, and then next thing you know, they want to put a guy tower on a little 3-acre track. Well, guys, I don't know if this is going to fit on this track, with the percentage of the guy anchors. I mean, I've done that several times. I'm like, guys, a guy anchor tower will not fit on this piece of property. You're going to have to build a 250-foot self-support, and they're like, okay, but obviously, self-support costs more.
Yeah,
so
foundation.
The cost down. So I've dealt with that too, walking sites. It changes. Now with the 1As and the small cells, things are a lot different as far as power pole right away. It's a little more simplistic as far as they're not going to change it up. But the macro sites were really neat. I did that for several years, and I enjoyed it. I really am going to different places. I really like being out dealing with people,
Well, and how many times do you have to go back out to a site and they want the site resurveyed? It's already been surveyed, but they want it resurveyed.
Yeah. Well, let's take yesterday, for example. It was a site that actually had fallen caused the ice storm in Mississippi. And, of course, I don't usually do this, but I'm walking sites because it's a friend of mine. And, it had fallen. It had gathered a lot of ice, and it's on the ground. It was a 600-foot tower or something like that. And so we are actually going to do the engineering, too, because it's basically almost like a raw land. They're going to demo the site, get rid of all the steel. They're going to build it back, basically do a drop-in swap, right? So it's almost like a raw land. So we had to engineer, we had to topo it, get topography, shoot, carry our elevations, shoot everything. They're going to rebuild it and do the survey at or during the survey. And then we've got to send it into our engineering company, and they're going to design it. So that site was a little bit different, because sometimes if it's just and it had an old survey. It had an old survey from September, but obviously in September the site was still standing up 600 feet. So now found out the site was like 40-something years old or whatever. They're taking everything down. They're going to build a brand new site. So that's why we treated it like a raw land. If I go back to a site and say another carrier, there's already a carrier on there, T-Mobile, AT&T, whoever, and Verizon wants to go on that site, well, they're going to call us and say, hey, we want a new as-built because we want to make sure that everything in the compound is where it was. The survey may be from 2005 to even 2010. If you got one from last year, you still need to verify. You have to verify because as well as I do, people will go out there and put a portable generator, just stick it in the compound, or they'll add something on, with a platform or put something here, and they may not, tell the tower owner per se. They should. But there's a lot of times you go out there and like, what is this? And why is this here? It doesn't show on the survey. Or the survey has a building going east and west, and this building's going north and south. So that's why we always encourage, it happens, Stuart. So we always encourage, especially if we're going to do the surveying and the engineering or whatever, hey, we encourage them like, look, you probably need an as-built survey that's up to date and verify the height of the tower, verify the top of the lightning rod. If you want a new 1A, how we talked about the other day with 1As and 2Cs, those don't really last forever. You have to, FAA requires you to have, an updated version of that. Now, it should be right, but hey, somebody can do the survey wrong, and if it's the only surveyor doing it, then you have nobody checking that surveyor. He can say it's a 490-foot tower, and you get out there and it's a 500-foot tower, and maybe there's a regulation at 500 feet. It happens. I saw it happen at Eglin Air Force Base. It was a 100-foot regulation, and they got these tower farms. Everything's 100 foot. I was seeing this one tower, it's 105. Somebody messed up. Well, Eglin Air Force Base didn't play. There's no variance at Eglin Air Force Base. You got to cut the tower off 5 or 6 feet and get it back at 100. That's because it was a bad survey, or either a bad design or a bad layout, or the builder or the construction guy just didn't pay attention. But it was obvious. You could look at it. So.
Wow. And just so many different things. So when you looked at that old survey, question number one, when you looked at that old survey you was doing back on that 600-foot broadcast tower, and you brought up the old survey, how was that written, John, in comparison to the language and the verbiage you use today when you read the survey per se? Or did you start with what they had or what they thought, or where do you...
Yes,
Go ahead.
Well, the one yesterday was a little different because the survey was still relatively new, but it was an as-built survey. Yeah, there were some issues that I looked at, but the first thing I would do is, did they tie the boundary down good? Do they have a complete survey? Did they just shoot a couple of irons and check a distance, or did they encompass the boundary where you can actually, the deed that's given, or the lease, that's inside the deed, because it was a 250-acre tract. Well, obviously they wasn't leasing 250 acres. They were leasing approximately, I think it was 5 acres, or whatever, plus or minus. But I look at that old survey, and I want to know if that surveyor, and I'm not going to call any names or anything, but did they do a good job, too? Does that look acceptable? And if we tie down other corners from an old surveyor, and they did a good job, then that makes me feel confident, and then good, we can kind of look at this and compare. People may, when they copy the deed, I want to read it because there may be a misspelled word or something. And if it goes to the lawyers, they're going to say, hey, well, this is a misspelled word. You got to redo it. We have to check everything. And as far as the survey work itself, per se, as far as the technical standards, as surveyors, I can look at it. And I know if, the bearing's good, the distance is good. They actually found corners. They located everything they needed to locate. For instance, the one yesterday, it did locate everything. There was 2 shelters. There was an existing fence. There was your beacon, little control switch, your power pole with your transforming your meter. They did a good job, and they located it. But since the tower fell down, the building has, been damaged. The fence was destroyed, a lot of it. So, of course, we took pictures. But the guy told me he's going to demo almost everything and just, like I said, rebuild it from scratch. So, yeah, we look over the old surveys. It's good to have a go by. It's case in point, your property in Kentucky. You got an old survey, great. We'll we can look at that. You got a deed, but if the deed's from 1940 or 1950 and almost different language and calls out things that we know is not there anymore, that's real difficult. We want to have something that is finite, and then we can shoot it. We have a starting point. We can go from there, and we can definitely define where our location is, obviously get our coordinates on it with our GPS, but locate everything that we need to locate, the boundary and anything that's a permanent structure. And I've emphasized permanent structure. If it's old doghouse that somebody brought out there, or whatever, I've even been to a site in rural Tennessee that had an outhouse in it, stored, one of those at Copper Hill, Tennessee, out in the middle of the mountains, and that was an odd sight, But you see so much different stuff, but that's why you have to assess it. Each job is pretty much different, so you have to have a good crew chief and a supervisor that knows, hey, this is good. You did a good job. You've done everything that you can do, and let's go to the next site.
When you start to do surveys in different states, what's some of the things you run into, John? Like, let's say if you were going to go to Louisiana and do a survey in Louisiana versus doing a survey in Alabama, what is some of those things that you might run into?
Well, specifically, and I'll be brief, most the states west of the Mississippi are, basically rectangle surveys. That's your common surveyors. But obviously, Louisiana is a total different ballgame. They don't have sections like Alabama and Mississippi and Florida, some other, Arkansas. But they have, obviously, they got parishes. They got all kind of weird property. And they, being French controlled before we acquired it from the Louisiana Purchase, there's a lot of old deeds. They're actually in French. But, even the English, it's just different. They use different terminology like hectares, which, we use acreage. They use different terms as far as measuring. Louisiana is definitely a different. I mean, they're everything's becoming a lot more modern and a lot more consistent now. But if you look at older deeds per se, 50, 60 years ago, and you've got, man, it can be Louisiana is a different ball game. Georgia's a little different, being one of the 13 colonies, and they have land lots where we have sections in Alabama. A section is a square mile by a square mile, 640 acres. You've heard, growing up in the South, you've heard, hey, I own the back 40, or I have 40 acres, right? Well, that's a quarter of a quarter, right? A quarter of a section is 160 acres,
right,
and a quarter of that is 40 acres.
Right. I see.
So you hear quarter. That in a deed, run along the quarter line, run along the section line to a property corner, to a section corner. A commencement point always has to start at a section corner in Alabama. Well, in Georgia, it's called land lots, and they're 212 acres. And that's really weird. You got Alabama, obviously wasn't a 13th colony, but Georgia did 212 lots. That's what they decided to do. And they'd almost do like a circulation, like a triangulating when they survey. Where it's hard to make it in layman's terms. We're more squares, right? You go down the line, turn 90 degrees, go up a line, turn over. That's kind of like a deed, go a certain distance, and so it's different. Tennessee's a little bit different. You being from Kentucky, you've read deeds there. They don't talk about distance. They run down the fence line to Aunt May's maple tree.
Yes.
How
yes.
difficult is that? Who is Aunt May? You go to Farmer Brown's barn corner. I'm like, oh my God, Tennessee and Kentucky, that was tough when Michael and I started surveying and going to other states. And you start seeing these different deeds, and like, what in the heck are they talking about? Where's the distance? Where's the bearing or angle?
How did you learn how to clean that up? Has modern technology helped you in cleaning that up, or?
Yeah, it did. Honestly, you just kind of learn as you go, Stork. I didn't know some of the terminology. I do have my survey license in Alabama. I do not have my survey license for Louisiana or Kentucky or Tennessee, but you learn as you go. You read the deed and you try to decipher it. It's like I know I've said this. It's like deciphering, not a puzzle, but a code or something in some ways. But what the best thing is evidence. So if you go out there and you're like, okay, I know I can't find Aunt May's tree, but I found a rock pile. And that deed says go to a rock pile and with a T-post in it. And I found that T-post. Hey, I know where I'm at.
Yeah.
The key is to find a starting point. Find a starting point. And some people are weird. They like to start in the front and the back. And hey, man, if you start in the middle and you can find a starting point, and then you can go east or west or north or south, and you can find another point, you're good as gold. When you get 2 points, and they match, with a distance or a bearing or something that are 2 finite points that you can tie that deed to. Oh man, that you take a deep breath. You're like, okay, now I can get going. Now I can start acquiring. I can calculate some stuff. I can start looking for different things and establishing my boundary. Because the worst thing we want to do, is to stake a tower and it be on another piece of property. And then the construction guys come out there and start tearing down trees and building access. And you're like, wait a second, you're on my property line. Don't think that hasn't happened. That's happened a few times. I know 2 or 3 times it's happened. And it was just innocent. It was just a miscommunication, or, hey, they didn't know that fence really didn't mean anything. It wasn't a boundary fence. It was an intermittent fence.
Yeah.
Or, the guy owns so much property, he didn't even know what he owned. In Texas one time,
Yeah.
they owned, 10,000 acres or 20,000 acres. And, what are you going to tie out there? Yeah, I own to the mountaintop, to the road, to the creek. Oh, okay. And that's how the deeds read. It was a land grant from 1870. The U.S. government patented this guy to his great-great-great-granddaddy. So, you see different things in different states, and that's what makes it unique. And it also makes it a little difficult or challenging, but we try to meet that challenge. And, that's why I always try to get a title search. We want a title search before we put out a complete drawing. That's almost a key now. It used to not be. Hey, I'll get title later, and y'all can incorporate. That. I can incorporate it in the survey later on. Man, if you got that title in the beginning, and that's got a good legal, and also has, like I said, a deed or legal description in it, that's clear title, at least what's recorded, that is such a help, especially, and to the drafters as well when they start their drawing.
And you were talking, what modern tools, like, now that we have our phones and everything, like when you're out doing your
Mm.
job and you do have 4G or you do have adequate service and everything, what apps are you
Mm.
using in the field, if you don't mind us asking? I mean, like, is there an app or something that
Well,
you pay service to that
there
you go ahead?
no, they're free apps, and I mean, Stork, it's been a while since I've run a survey crew. I've been doing marketing and business development for
Right.
many years, and I still, went out in the field. And matter of fact, yesterday, one of the guys, it was a wildlife management guy who was around. They owned the property around. He was sitting out there, and I'm walking up with my machete, and I said, "Hey, buddy, what's up?" "Oh, hey, man, And I said, "Hey, I didn't bother you." He said, "No, I knew y'all were out here." And we got to talking about the property lines. I was walking some fence lines while my two guys were shooting everything, locating everything, locating the town. I just stayed an extra hour or two to help them out. I was out in the field. I thought I'd help them. And he's like, "Well, hey, do you have this Land Glide?" Is what it's called. Land Glide, GLIDE. It's a good app. I think a lot of people use it for like hunting or timber companies where they get an idea. It's not set in stone. You can't survey by anything on your phone. It's not survey grade. I mean, survey grade is to the millimeter. But even Google Earth, "Oh, I know where I'm at." No, you don't. Google Earth is probably, depending on the satellite image, man, 20 or 30 feet. We've had people call us up with surveys like, "Well, Google Earth shows the fence over here." I'm like, and you take a scale out, and and we actually went out in the field. Well, the Google Earth has the fence 20 feet over in a different location because of the angle of the satellite that it took the picture. It's not directly over your property. Think about when you take a picture. You're a photographer. When you take a picture, you got to be right down the line or over the top of something. If you take it at an angle, what's it going to do as for the eye? It's going to skew it.
Yeah.
So, and you're talking about a satellite, thousands or hundreds of miles up or whatever, how high they are, several miles up. So, yeah, people call us, "Can I just survey by Google Earth?" No, absolutely not. These are apps, and they are for, not entertainment, but information purposes only, to get you close, to where the property line is, to get you, hey, this is in the general vicinity of, there's a power pole here or whatnot. A lot of hunters use it, a lot of timber people. Surveyors also do use it because you can, it will bring in a Latin long. Now, how accurate that Latin long is, it depends on how many satellites you're tracking. GPS, if you're in the woods, how many satellites you think you're going to get? And it's in the middle of summer. Not very many, right?
Right.
Because of the foliage. I mean, in the wintertime, yes, with the leaves off, you will get a better coverage. But it is just a go-by. We used to use a handheld. We did. Because in Mississippi, Alabama, Oklahoma, you have to tire 2 section corners. So we could get close, and we would get within about a 20, 30-foot radius. Hey, if I can get within 20 feet in the middle of the woods looking for a corner and there's no fences around, to go by, then I've got my, metal detector. A lot of times I'll find it, But if you've got fences, it's around the fence, sure, and then, of course, the metal detector will pick up the fence, so that makes it difficult. So it's a lot of little tools you can use, and technology's gotten so much better. The GPS is what's really just been phenomenal. I know a lot of guys that just use GPS almost all the time now. I mean, not particularly in tower surveys, but like they do big work in open areas, and they lay out, they lay out parking lots where there's no trees. Man, you can get on that GPS, and that will get to survey grade because you can track multiple, like 10, 12 satellites. I mean, if you get 6 satellites, you're doing good, but 10 or 12, that's really, really, really getting accurate. I mean, you can set a corner by that, So that's why we do our GPS, and we set our 2 control points out in the open area store. But then that's our go points. We set 2 points, we set control, and then we come off those 2 points that we've got a good XYZ, latitude, longitude, and Z is your elevation. And then we move into the woods to try to find the boundary, or if it's a wooded site and we got to stake out the tower. We've got 2 points that we know we can rotate to. You've got to have 2 points because you got to rotate it to north, right? Those north areas on the map.
Right.
We rotate it to north. We don't do that in the field. We do it in the house, but we start with 2 known points, and we create those points. I used to if I found a property corner that was open, I like to set my GPS on that property corner because now I've got a control point on a property corner. Let's say if it's a concrete monument
yes.
that was by the road, and I could see a lot from that vantage point, I would use that. That's what I would do. Now if I couldn't get anything from that vantage point, then no, I would set 2 arbitrary points, down the road or somewhere in an open area, and start locating everything that I found and then what I needed to complete my survey. But it's gotten a lot better there. I mean, you had to spend some money. I mean, it used to be $10,000, $12,000. It's well over $30,000, some $50,000, and there's even some instruments you can get that have scanners, and we have not gone into that, and it's over $100,000 per scanner. I think one day it may get to that. I've seen some people trying to use it. It's a heck of an investment. If you know that it can get to survey grade and you can map towers by it and it's that good, I don't think we're there yet. It's just like with the drones. A lot of people are flying drones, right?
Yes.
And do tower mapping.
Yes.
Well, that's great. That you can count the bolts. They've got HD cameras on them. You can see a gnat's butt. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
You can zoom in and you can. But you know what? That drone can't test that bolt to see if it's loose, can it?
No.
That drone can't, say, ooh, it's sturdy. That drone can't, and if it's bad weather and it's cloudy or rainy, I mean, you're going to put a drone up in there and you think they're going to zoom in if it's raining real hard and get a good picture? Sure, you can use them. You can use them for other areas too, for checking birds' nests and whatnot if you're an environmentalist. But people try to survey by them, but a drone can't set a property corner. Drone can't get on the ground with a hammer and put something in the ground and put a cap on it and put some ribbon on the ground and say, here's my property corner. Or put a stake in the ground and say, here's the southeast guy anchor. Or here's the center line of the tower, right? Can't do it. So they're helpful. They're getting better every day. And if it's the type of survey work, if that's all you do is big boundaries and open fields and you do parking lot staking is what I call it, then great. But if you've got to get in the woods or you got to get, down and dirty and you got to set some corners or put stakes in the ground, well, a drone's not going to do you no good, because you're already on the ground anyway, right? So just let your guys go out there and do it, and that's what it's changed a lot. We used to have 3-man crews all the time back then because it was a lot more difficult. You had a guy cutting line, you had a guy behind the gun, you had your party chief. Now we do 2-man crews. I mean, you got to have 2 men, I think. Some crews use 1 man. I don't like that strategy because what if he gets hurt? What if he gets sick? What if he's out in the woods and all of a sudden he may, have a stroke? I mean, something could happen. What if he falls and trips and has his machete and he cuts himself? You just never know. One guy, we don't like that. I'll send one guy to take pictures, but I don't want to send one guy to do a site. I mean, it's happened, I know survey crews that do that because they're trying to cut down on their costs. But I think 2 men is good. If you're driving a lot, one guy gets tired, the other guy can drive. And obviously for sickness and wellness and health purposes, I think a 2-man crew is minimum, you should at least have 2. And that's just our strategy at SMW.
Well, and John, 2 people can not only get it done better, but just like you said, it gets back to the accuracy. It's not that your partner makes mistakes or anything. It's to keep you both straight when you're out there in the field.
That's right, man. I mean, look, I've been to several sites and I've looked over there, and I mean, there's not a lot of snakes prevalent. There's not, but I've walked some sites by myself, and I look over there and there's a 4-foot timber rattler, or there's a cottonmouth. I don't see a lot. I'm not saying I have, and I've seen a lot more yellow jackets come out of the ground that I've had to run from.
Oh my goodness!
Hornets,
Goodness!
Dude! I didn't know yellow jackets came out of the ground until I started surveying, but I found out pretty quick, Yeah. So I mean, it's just little things, man. Just being out in the field, you experience different things. But some people like being by themselves, but having an extra guy you can talk to and keep you awake, or just shoot the breeze with, whatever. So. That's just our, strategy. I know some people that 1 man's good enough. I'm like, okay, but if he gets hurt, he gets sick, man. Geez, I would hate. We have an older gentleman that used to work for us. He's basically retired now, but he was probably in his early 60s and tall guy, kind of overweight, great guy, like a second father or uncle to me and Michael. And I mean, we were not going to send him out by himself. He had some artery issues, Could you imagine?
Yeah.
I mean, what would we do? We would feel so guilty if he was out walking up a mountain and then had a stroke or a heart attack, and he was, oh man, So you have to weigh in as an owner, as a supervisor, as a director, or whatever your position in authority is. Even a party chief. I had to take care of my guys that were under me. I didn't want them doing stupid stuff and getting hurt either. I mean, we got hit by some hornets before. We got hit by, we never had any snake bites. We got hit by yellow jackets. But, hey, we're going to call it a day and go take, rest, and we'll hit it tomorrow. But we're going to take some bug spray with us or something, or some wasps and hornet, so we can get this job done. Because we're in the middle of Tennessee. We're not driving back to Birmingham because there's hornets. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to get,
you got to get the job done, You understand?
Oh, definitely. And John, when you start to talk about it, we talk about tower survey, and it's a little bit different doing a survey for a cellular tower, and that's more specifically what you do. But because what's one of the things that's going to happen? You're going to cut a road off of a state highway, and when you cut that road, I'll let you take it from there. I mean.
Well, the two keys there. I mean, obviously you got to do the permitting, right? The site act is like, hey, if this is a state or a federal highway, yeah, you've got to get a permit to tie in that. I mean, if it's a federal highway, good luck. I mean, there's chances, but if there's an existing driveway and you can use it, that's the key too. If it's an existing driveway, like say there was an old residence and that's already grandfathered in, whoo, that's good because. You know as well as I know, once you go off the shoulder, there's usually a ditch on the road, right?
Right.
So you got to build a culvert, you got to build your access. Even if you do get permitting, if there's an existing driveway and you can upgrade it, that it can hold a boom truck or something, hey, you reinforce that and you use that. Because most of the times, they're going to put that road in the right place. But if there's not one, you got to have sight distance, and sight distance requirements change in every state, county.
Yep.
Most of the time it's, I think it's 10 times the speed limit. So therefore, if it's a 40-mile-an-hour speed limit, you got to have 400 feet both ways.
Okay.
I've even seen 12 times the speed limit. But if you got 300 feet and then all of a sudden you got a sharp curve, then guess what? It's not going to work. Not with a 40-mile speed limit.
Right.
So little things you have to take into consideration. But that's all permitting. But you got to have the distance first. If you don't have the distance, it's a no-go. And then if you do have the distance, yeah, you got a permit for your shoulder. You got to do an engineering design, have a radius coming in and out. And we do a little drawing, because it's in the right of way. And then when it gets to our property, we started off with an easement, a 30-foot wide easement that we can bring the gravel and the utilities down and whatnot.
But if you own some property and you're going out here and you bought some property in Alabama and you want to cut off Wire Road, which is a state highway or whatever county road, and they, you can't just cut you can't just cut that off. But if you were going and doing it, like you said, that little 3-page drawing you're talking about, it's not that expensive at your engineering firm because you're going to need it to send off to Alabama Department of Transportation to get that approval, whether you're cutting a cell tower or you're cutting it to your barn.
No, that's true. Yeah. I mean, that's why you assess the piece of property you buy. You take all that in consideration. I would. I mean, I don't know if the site acts. I guess some site acts. You got some great site acts out there. Not saying, but some site acts kind of overlook things like that too. I've staked sites before that a dang creek was running through, and I'm like, did y'all walk this site? No, we took it off Google. Okay, whatever. So you got to walk the site and you got to put eyeballs on it, but you got to make that assessment. And if it doesn't, and that's the only piece of property you can put that the RF says, we got to have that piece of property, and you negotiate it out and it works. Yeah, you got to get up the permitting because they may not think it's a viable. I mean, they may not grant it. But if they say, hey, we're putting a cell tower and the site act's good, and somebody knows how to go talk to the municipality and said, we're putting a cell tower, we're trying to bring 4G, 5G out here. This is Mr. Jones' property. We need a turn permit. Well, do you have a site distance? If you don't have a site distance, I don't know what you would do. I really don't. I don't know. I don't think they make variances for that because can you imagine the liability?
Yeah.
Somebody comes over that curve and you don't have a site distance and there's an accident. Well, who you think is going to get sued?
Yeah, landowner.
I mean, the DOT will probably get sued for allowing it, but then they're going to sue everybody, especially if it's a fatality. So obviously that liability doesn't want to be incurred by anybody. So, that's the first thing. And if you do, then Jeremy is the one that would, at our office, Jeremy Sherritt, he would be the one that would do the permitting. He's our head engineer, and then would sit down with the site act or the municipality and talk to them what their specific requirements are. Because you may say there's a minimum width of 30 feet or 20 feet. Like I said, each jurisdiction is going to have a certain requirement. Hey, then they're going to measure the pipe that you got to, because if there's no road and you got a ditch, you got to verify the water flow. We have to do topo because how much water is going to come in. And now that you're altering that grade, you're altering it a little bit. What is that going to do to the water flow? Is that going to flood the road? Or are you going to have a big enough pipe to size it? So we have to do all that.
And not only that,
there's always a swale. I mean, so.
Well, and not only that, it's all the repercussions that you do. If you're building that cell site on a hill and you cut that road and you put the wrong size pipe in and you're flowing the water down the hill, you're running it in on. It's going somewhere, John. It's headed somewhere.
I won't mention this. I walked 2 sites for Jeremy about 8 months ago for another tower owner that acquired 2 towers. We did the original raw land. We did the engineering. We have those 2 services, so I always market that now. There may be one other company that does it, but most engineering companies, they have site act firms, but they don't have surveying companies.
Right.
I can think of one other, won't mention them, but we were probably the first ones to do that when we decided to do that. So, hey, we'll do the surveying, and it's not going to be delayed because once we're done with that surveying and that topo for that raw land, we're going to take it immediately to our engineering company, our engineering service side, which is, right there, same building, depending on our location, and they're going to get started on it so we can get that drawing out quicker. Well, man, we did these 2 sites, probably like an 18, good-looking sites for a well-known tower company that you're probably well aware of. So another tower company bought these 2. And I happen to know the guy there with, my traveling. I've met this other individual. He's a friend of mine. He said, man, we're having some issues. And I said, what kind? Well, it's water. The road's getting washed out, and we've got some erosion. And he said, and y'all did the drawings. So he sent me the drawings, and I said, yeah, we did it. Jeremy signed. So I said, I'll go look at them. And one was in Mississippi, one was in Louisiana. And I get out there, and, of course, I got the CDs where we designed them, too, because I wanted to verify, right? Not just the survey. But I want to make sure the way Jeremy put his riprap in his ditches and his culverts, because one was coming off a slope. They built half of it. They built the tower. Tower looked great. They built up the 100 by 100. But the access road, they put 1 culvert. It called for 3 culverts. They called for riprap ditches on both sides going down about 200 feet. It's probably about a 350-foot access. They called it for about 200 feet till it hit one of the main, cross sections with the corrugated. They probably did 100 feet of it, and I look over there, and there's a pile of riprap, which is, you know what riprap is.
Yeah.
Just gravel, large gravel.
Yep.
You have different sizes. Everybody probably knows that. And a big old pile of it just sitting there. They just quit construction on it. They did a halfway job, and no wonder the road was cut. There was 1 little culvert when there was supposed to be 3. They didn't put 3 under there, so they cut costs, whoever did it, or they ran out of money, or the contractor maybe had an argument with somebody and just said, to heck with it. Nobody caught it. And so all the gravel that was on the road, all you could see was the plastic underneath, the weed prevention, and I took pictures. I called Jeremy because Jeremy was like, John, did we do something wrong?
Oh, Lord.
You think that maybe we designed it wrong. I said, Jeremy, you didn't do anything wrong, brother. They just didn't build it right. And that was one site. I swear to goodness. So the other site in Louisiana, I get up there where there's a creek off the property, and we topoed around it, and almost the same thing. They didn't quite build it right. They called for a 12-inch ditch, and the ditch was only 6 inches, so they didn't dig the ditch down far enough for the water to really, so it was filling up faster, right?
Right.
It was supposed to be a 12 to 18-inch ditch with rock over it. Well, it was probably only a 6-inch ditch, so the water would hit the ditch, and it did. If a flash flood came, it didn't. It went over the road rather before it got to the culvert.
Right.
So that road was washed out.
Oh, Lord.
And there was another. It was sandy loam. Right outside the lease area was a creek, and I'm sure it flooded like heck. But it was real sandy loamy, which means a lot of sand in it. Which means what? It erodes fast.
Right.
And it was eroding a lot faster than they thought. And that thing had, from when we did the survey for 2 years later, it had probably lost about 30 feet of land. That had just washed off into the creek. And, my suggestion was, hey, I'm not an engineer. Jeremy did a design. Y'all need to put some concrete over here. And that's what they decided to do, to bring some big riprap, some big rock, and put concrete down in there. And I think they got it fixed. But because the caissons were deep. But it was almost to the fence, Stork. It was already crossing over the lease area, almost to the fence corner, and the one of the tower anchors was only about 10 feet, or 12 feet inside the fence. So you had to do something immediately, or you were going to lose your fence. And who knows about your tower, but you don't want to even guess it. So they fixed it, it happens. You know, things are not always built right. Things are not always engineered right. But thank God those two sites, you know, we did engineer them right, and it looked great. But the construction people, whoever they were, really don't know who they were. I just know the tower owner. They did not. They one job they didn't even complete, and the other job they just did it wrong.
Well,
So,
you know,
it happens, man.
but you bring up a great point, John, and I hate to harp on it, but I'm a big stickler on it, and that is sending somebody back out there for that punch, and to punch that site after it's been constructed, and to make sure, just like you said, when you go through the drawings,
Yeah.
if there's 4 pictures of gravel pits going up the driveway, there should be 4 pits on the ground somewhere that matches those pictures as you
Yeah.
go up through there.
That's right.
I mean, go ahead.
You got 3 culverts on your drawing, and you only see one. Well, dang, dude, you know what they do on these punts? Now, I'm not saying that, but this guy must have just drove by. He probably just drove up there and said, it looks okay. But there was a big pile of gravel, huge, size of a truck, that was just sitting there. Obviously, they didn't use it. And if you look, I mean, all you got to do is get a tape measure and pull off the fence. The tower looked great, you know, but once they got down to access, they just totally just disregarded the access. Said,
Boy,
heck with it, we're done.
Well,
Now, like I said, it must be somebody disgruntled or they forgot about it or something happened, but, you know, it was not right. So that one in particular was just the access. The tower was great, you know, the tower site. But still the access, I mean, we had ruts. I mean, 10-inch ruts, 12-inch ruts. Well, how's a little old truck going to drive up there? You know, I hope he has 4-wheel drive, but it would tear your car up if you got to make several visits up there, you know, so.
Well, and the point was,
Anyway.
it's like you said, after they got it stacked, they probably pulled the crew off and told them, oh, we'll go back over there. And time went on, and they never went back over there and closed that site. And then, you know, forgot about it. Hey, John, you know, speaking of that, you know, so we're talking about doing surveys on new cell towers because build-to-suits are back in, and they are popping. There is some out there moving around, and I'm about to get my fingertips hopefully on one real soon. But anyway, what are some of the
good for you? Yeah.
what are some of the things that you're running into now on a new build? What are some of the things you got to think about when you first start to think about you get a job offer to, you know, go out and stake out a new build? Walk us through that a little bit.
Well, I mean, we haven't got into a lot of that yet, but we have got a lot of new builds. I mean, the one thing I think about, you know, is how, you know, hey, I got 20 sites. Well, okay, where are they located? I want to know where they're located, right? Well, I got 2 in Alabama, 2 in Minnesota. I'm like, whoa, okay, whoa. You know, we don't go up there. The one thing I want to think is location, right? Where's this location? And when are they going to be released? I mean, yeah, we can send a crew one at a time. I mean, we can still be profitable, but are y'all going to get released? How many are going to get released? What's your schedule? That's what I think about as far as on the survey and management part. You know, obviously David McKinney, Blue McCoy, and William Eccles, and another gentleman, Johnny Flaskett, down in Florida, runs he's in charge, our surveyor in our Tampa office. They coordinate the crews.
Right.
But like if we're getting the jobs and it's a friend of mine and he's going to send me some towers, that's the first. I'm going like, hey man, how many do you have? Well, I got 20. How many? Can you do them all? Well, you know, we don't go to Seattle, we don't go to New York, but yeah, I can do such and such. So I'll do 10 of them. You know, when are you going to need a schedule? Well, you know how it is. You know, hurry up and slow down. Well, okay, are you going to do? And we're probably going to do one at a time. Okay, well that's fine. We can space them out. We can get our crew scheduled because I don't want to send a crew to Valdosta, Georgia, and then him have another site in Nashville, Tennessee. You know, I mean, gas is almost what $3 a gallon now. I mean,
dude, it's $5 a gallon.
Guys, they do it. You know what I'm saying? They do a ton of driving. So we do our best to coordinate stuff, you know, within reason. You know, I mean, yeah, we've done sites but if you do a site in Muscle Shoals, and hell, Nashville's only an hour away, right? Corinth, Mississippi's right there. Tupelo's not far. Well, even though they're 3 different states, you only got about 2 or 3 hours of driving. So you got to look at geography and when you schedule. As far as the surveying, I mean, it's the same. I mean, it just depends on what type of tower you're going to put on. Like I said earlier, you know, are you going to get a large enough track, especially if it's a guy tower? Will it fit on there?
Right.
You know, that's the key. I mean, and that's the things we look at as far as the initial phase. You know, hey, what's it going to take? Do you have an access planned out? Is there existing road? You know, does Farmer Brown already have a road that he wants us to use, you know, into that road that it's tying into? Or we're going to have to do new access. So that's when we do the site walk, right? That's when we go out there and walk the site And I used to walk them a lot when I kind of came inside, and then our crew would come behind it. Our guys have gotten experienced enough now. Our crew chiefs, we just most of the time, not always, but most of the time, we just send a survey crew, and they walk the site with whomever. Say you get one, I may walk it with you, just to me and you. But we usually send a survey crew. They go over the plan, where the access is going to go, what type of tower. We already have a site, data package. We hope we have a skip package with us beforehand, before we go out there. We want the title, like I mentioned. We want to have that too, so we can verify some things. And then once that's scheduled, they blow and go as long as weather's permitting, and they got the go ahead. One thing I hated more than anything is walking a bunch of sites.
Go ahead.
And with these site acts, and I hated it. I mean, it happened, and I would walk. Man, we got 10 sites to walk. I'm like, great. And we'd get out there, and I'm like, well, where's the landowner? Well, I hadn't really confirmed with the landowner yet. I'm like, what? The landowner? You don't have a lease sign? No, I ain't got a lease sign yet. Well, why am I walking this site? I mean, it's like we don't have a lease sign. Hell, I'm trespassing. I don't want to be on somebody's property, and he comes out like, what the heck are you doing on my property? Putting a stake in the ground. It's happened before, Stork.
Oh, man, you got to be kidding me.
Get a lease sign, man.
I'd be scared to death to get on somebody's property. I'd be scared to death to get on somebody's property. I mean, you not know the landowner?
You better not do it in rural Tennessee or rural Alabama. You're gonna have a shotgun looking at you like, get off my property. And I've had several landowners come up to me, and after we've done the work, well, okay, when do I get my first check? I'm like, ma'am, or sir, I'm the surveyor. I just laid it out. You need to talk to your whomever it was. You know how they are. I signed a contract. When I get my $500 check or $800 check, I'm like, I'm just the surveyor. I'm just the messenger.
Boy.
So things have gotten better. They have, but with communication and with everything. But it still happens, man. I talked to a lady the other day. Well, I've got some earnest money, and they said they were going to put a cell tower on she was a friend of my mother's. And I said, well, look, let me know who it is. I may know them, especially in Alabama or local or around the surrounding states. And she said, well, I put my earnest money down. I said, well, good. I said, before you sign a contract, you call me. And if you need to know, I said, I'm not an attorney. I'm not even, but if you got any questions, I could help you out with it. I didn't want to give her any legal advice, but you know what I'm saying.
Well, and
that's what I think about,
Well, we did. I was doing a site with that company I was with last year on that contract basis, and we did one. And the carrier would work the package up to a certain point, and then just say, if you want the site, you're going to have to carry the football the rest of the way. It's as is. You buy it as is. You know that going in. Well, apparently they didn't go through it and get the electrical easement access, and Duke Power. It just happened to be in North Carolina or South Carolina. Duke Power's got a little bit more of a special paperwork you kind of got to go through, and they want their own paperwork to say that they can pull power, through people's property and everything. And so anyway, I had to meet the landowner, and I was going to try to, I wasn't trying to be mean, but we had to get that. You got to get that notarized, Coach. So she said, well, let's just meet down at my attorney's office. Well, here comes through the back door, an attorney, and he starts talking.
Ambulance chaser?
Yeah. Well, no, he wasn't. His daddy had been had the law office, and he was taking over, and he started talking to her about rev share and this and that, and I was like, dude, the ground lease has already been cut. And he goes, well, what about the rent? And I said, we'll get Mrs. Nichols her rent when the tower stacks, but we're not going to do anything unless we get this electrical easement, because if we can't get power and fiber out to the site, we're just sitting here having a little old conversation, because there ain't nothing going to happen until I get that power and fiber out there. And he said, ma'am, you should have thought about rev share. And I was like, dude, I mean, it's already a monopine, much less now you want to make it rev share. It's already got a ticket on it. We already ordered the thing from Italy. So anyway, that was great.
As well as I know, if that would have happened, they would be like, you want rev share? I tell you what, we're going to go across the street.
Yes.
And we're going to give them the opportunity to put that monopine in, and we're going to give her $500 a month.
Option two.
And man, it happened with me on the sidewalk store. We were going to put an antenna in a steeple at a church. and we were working and we were doing this work and walking the site, and it was going to be hidden. Nobody knew, stealthy. And the pastor comes up, and this was a long time ago now, '08 or so, and said, "Can you get on the internet?" Well, yeah, eventually, yes, sir. Yeah, you can. He was asking the site act, and I'm just listening. Well, there's bad things on the internet. There's pornography and everything, and we don't want people doing that. And the site act was like, well, sir, I can't control what people do on their cell phones. I mean, we're just going to provide the coverage. I think it was a 3G site, and we're just going to provide, coverage. Well, I don't know if we're going to be good with that, And he said, well, you need to let me know. And he called the congregation and the deacons, and they said, no, they didn't want it. And the same guy called me a week later and said, hey, that site at the church? Can you meet me back up here? We're going across the site to a Mr. Brown or whatever his name was, and there's no zoning. We're going to put it right next to right off his barn up on the hill right across from the church. I mean, directly across the street.
Absolutely.
So that guy's getting his $500 or $600 every month.
From now on.
They can walk out of the congregation and look at the tower. And I understood what he was saying, but you can't, what, here you can get online, but you can't surf, whatever. The guy was like, sir, it's a free country. I can't stop what people do on their cell phone. That's inevitable. And the poor pastor, he was an older gentleman, country guy from, you know what I mean. And I thought, golly, he didn't. I don't even know if he had a cell phone. It was '08. He probably didn't know.
Well, John,
he probably had a little touchstone.
John, our integrity. A lot of people don't get it, but our integrity is the most important thing in this process, and keeping our freaking hands on the table to do this work. Because everybody says, hey, you get me a tower on your property or whatever. You just want to say, listen, dude, I no way, no how, or anything. If the dude over there in the cube comes out with the Latin long and it just happens to hit in your back of your swing set, then it hits in the back of your swing set. But congratulations, it's like taking they don't get it. A lot of people don't get it that RF drives the tower. We don't decide where the tower goes. The carrier makes and moving that tower just a little bit, even if we go to option 2, it just messes up their other 15 sites they got surrounded. Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. It could cause 3 more builds instead of 1 more build. And our job is to keep the carrier's costs down in building this equipment and trying to get good assets out there. Hey, John, COVID is letting up and everything, and we've got some activities kind of on the horizon. You mentioned your marking ability and everything, and if there's anybody that knows about the wireless associations, and you kind of scampered across it there as you spoke about your golf, but if anybody doesn't know John Hester, I mean, when he grabs a golf club and he rears that thing back, it's like a show. I've been fortunate to ride 18 holes and come home with some hardware, but you're fixing to be in your season, aren't you, John? And you had a chance to play last week or whatever. Talk a little bit about getting out and about and seeing customers.
Yeah, with me, I mean, everybody knows that knows me. I mean, I attend many events. I mean, we have, like I said, we have office in Texas, office in Florida, our main office in Birmingham. So when we started doing this, when Will kind of, sat back and Michael started kind of running the show, and even before that, we had another guy that was doing marketing. Hey, John, I want you to go out and do marketing for us. I said, well, that's what I'm born to do, And with everybody doing a golf tournament, I thought, heck, that's a great idea, So I started traveling a lot, playing in the Arkansas, Oklahoma, the North Carolina one that's at Pinehurst.
And that is, Georgia. And John mentioned that. John mentioned that. John mentioned that about that Pinehurst. Stop right there. You did mention something. Is the Pinehurst deal on?
Yes, Charleston last week they confirmed that Pinehurst is going to be on in May. Right now, if you want an update for what I've got
take us through it.
Obviously, we had our music movement, which it was a golf tournament, kind of associated with the Carolina one. But the main thing, it was for children with autism to get introduced to music to help them venture out of their shell. And my daughter has disabilities; she's not autistic, but little things like that, man. We SMW, we support the music movement, West Coast, East Coast, and now this year is going to be the first annual music movement South event. So we have a Music Movement West in California, which was original. The one in Charleston is the Music Movement East. It was our 4th annual this year, and now we're going to have a first annual coinciding with the South Wireless Summit on Monday night in Nashville. I believe that's June 28th. And Steve Nicely, who's the chairman, and I guess CEO or whatever for the South Wireless, asked me to help out, and I can't wait. It's going to be a really fun event. We're going to have some country music stars from Nashville, some local people, and some guys with some big names that people got songs out. And so that's coming. We moved the South Wireless from usually around St. Patrick's Day. Because of COVID, we wanted to have a few more months, and that's the last week in June. But right now, the Arizona Wireless is happening, which I've only been familiar with that a couple of years, but I'm going to go this year because of the Wireless West was canceled. And we do have a little satellite office in Phoenix, just a couple of people. But we're going to attend that. That's in April. And then the end of April, Texas Wireless has announced they're having their spring annual event in Dallas at the Dallas Cowboy golf tournament. That's going to be a big event for everybody that doesn't go to the Arizona. That's usually your western people, your California, Colorado, Seattle, Arizona. And then Texas usually brings a lot of people from Mississippi, Louisiana, Oklahoma, Arkansas, etc. That's a big event. And then May is going to be the Pinehurst, which will get all the East Coast people, from Alabama, Georgia, the Carolinas, maybe Florida, whatnot. And then after that, you have the South Wireless. So there's 4 events that I know of in the next 3 months. And people are coming back. We have not decided on Alabama Wireless yet. I got a phone call soon with the president of Alabama Wireless, and I'm going to help out because he's now moved to Georgia. And we may have it in late July. I don't know about fall. Fall's going to be really busy because it looks like that everybody, at least the vaccine is going to be available to everybody if they want it. And, that's what we have to go by. And still wear your mask if it's mandated. April the 9th will be the last day in Alabama, and the mandate's going to be listed altogether. So as far as Alabama goes, anything after April 9th, we should be good to go, barring any other incidents. So we feel confident we definitely can get the AWA in this year.
Well,
so that's where we are right now.
Well, and I think that Judy said that the vaccine, that we're next in line. Telecom people, we are considered utility. We will be grouped in with utilities and telecommunications professionals.
I heard that.
We are the next batch in line to get our COVID vaccine, and it couldn't come any quicker for all of us, could it?
Well, I think that's great. That's like you putting out a public service announcement right now. So that's good. I mean, my daughter, I found out that if your child has disabilities, whatever they are, slow learning or whatever, Down syndrome, whatever the case may be, if you are a parent of a child with disabilities, if anybody doesn't know this, that is also going to be on board now, and you can now get your vaccine. Now, I'm speaking for Alabama, but I think it's nationwide. I don't know. Obviously, California and New York have their own set of rules that I don't even want to get into. But so I think around the Southeast, so there's so many more categories. Like you said, telecommunication. My sister works at UAB. She's 53. She got to take hers 2 weeks ago. But she's 53, but she works in administration at UAB, human resources. So obviously teachers, anybody, it's almost getting to the point, unless you're, it's probably the food industry people I've heard, they can get theirs, anybody out in the public, and I think that's great. I didn't know that about the telecom utilities. So if you, maybe when you confirm that, you can put that out and we'll send that out. That's great for people. That's going to be wonderful for all of us in our industry, but not for just that, for getting younger people vaccinated, 30 and over, 40 and over, and coming down the line. Once we get it all, this hope, I know it won't go away. Nothing ever does. But just like the polio vaccine or whatever in the past, we can get this behind us, and we've learned a hell of a lesson. We've lost some lives, which suck, but we can move forward, and we won't be caught, so disoriented next time.
You did mention you were in South Carolina, and it is always a joy to ride in the cart with you. How'd you play?
Played well. Played with two big wigs.
So you
played with another gentleman for T-Mobile. Yeah, we had a great time. There was 4 58s, and that's 14 under par. And we had we had one mulligan, but we didn't even know we had mulligans for a long time. I just thought it was something. We had a great time, man. We played well. We enjoyed each other's company. A gentleman, Mike Belsky, who's one of the VPs at Berkeley,
yes,
he just looked around. He said, "Guys, I needed this. This was great. I just needed the camaraderie, and we all laughed, and toasted, and it was just, this is
Ah,
getting out, seeing people,
yes.
and it was 75 degrees, Stork. It was sunny. It was it was a picture perfect day. The wind was not, blowing real hard, maybe low 70s. It was cool. It wasn't hot. It was just one of those days you're like, thank goodness I'm outside and I'm with friends. And everybody. I mean, you didn't wear your mask on that. You wore your mask if you were eating, but if you sat down, it wasn't really implemented much. But if you walked into the clubhouse at the course, yeah, you had to have a mask. But other than that, I mean, everybody had a mask, but we all still social distance per se, somewhat as best as we could. You know how it happens, but we got our temperatures checked. It was a good event. It was like the first event, real big event, that everybody came from many different states. I mean, people from Texas and Florida, and Louisville, Kentucky, and everywhere, Louisiana. There was a lot of people there. It was a big event. So, and Steve nicely told me yesterday that over 800 people have already signed up for South Wireless. I know you'll be attending, so that
Yep.
should be an unbelievable event. This
Yeah,
year,
that's going to be it's going to be huge. I'm actually going to broadcast that for Steve. So the South Summit, and it's going to be a little bit delayed, but we'll be getting a different crowd for it. And then WIA is the Connect X is going to be in Boston, so that'll be a lot of fun
Oh
for
yeah,
those.
that'd be great.
I've never been to Boston, so I always.
Hey, neither have I.
Well,
Neither have I.
I've always
Neither have
wanted to see where they had that tea party. I just always wanted to see that little place. And see where it all happened.
Hey, how do you think those people? How do you think those people are going to react to my accent up in Boston?
Well, I don't know. I was telling, and I don't have to worry about it because I'll never do any business up there. But anyway, I was telling Judy that the first thing is I have a good friend named Mike Grindle who's from Boston, and every time you're around him, it's hey, well, you're gonna get to Ka, and you gotta love those guys. I mean, they're a lot of fun. You learn from them.
Oh man,
you learn from them.
Oh yeah,
They teach you
I do.
something.
I love it.
Oh, well, we think we got snow until they start talking about snow in the Northeast, and then we get we get a clear picture that, or our Denver comrades, that we get a clear picture of just what the weather's all about.
Oh, well, that's why they're all moving to Florida too, Stork. Not just the taxes, the weather too. My goodness, Florida's in Nashville, Tennessee. Everybody's coming south because they want to be able to go outside 12 months a year, at least part time. And so we've seen a huge influx. Our office in Tampa. We're getting a lot of surveys for requests for mortgage surveys and all. And we do a little bit, but it's amazing the in the home building industry. You look around and you pay attention what's going on. Don't have blinders on and just see what's going on and then anticipate. And you can't be reactive. You have to be proactive with a lot of things, in business and in everything you do. And if you're that way, you'll more than likely you'll be successful. Sure, you may have some faulty forecasts and make some bad decisions, but if you look around, it's like investing. If you invest in the companies at the places you go, that's what I do. I go to Lowe's. I've been more than I do Home Depot. I go to CVS more than I do Rite Aid or whatever it is, Walgreens. You have to look around and make conscious decisions. But if I was up there and I had all that snow and I had to pay 12-13% taxes and I was elderly or retired, I damn sure wouldn't stay up there.
Well, Steve's trying to call in. He's been on hold now. I see him for 4 minutes. So
Okay.
I don't know whether I should really let him in or not. No, if I let him in, let me see if I can. Hold on. Let's see if I can let him in.
All right.
I cannot let him in. I cannot let him in because
Okay.
I cannot. It doesn't look like I can let him in at the present time. I can only keep one line open. But John,
I could call him and add a call. but,
add a call.
that's fine.
Add a call. Add Steve to the call.
Let me try to do.
Add
to
Steve.
do that.
Add
Yeah,
Steve to the
all right,
call. All right.
All right, I think I can do this.
Add
I don't know
Steve
if
to
you
the.
can hear him, though.
Well,
See, I have
yes,
two
I
on
can. Yes, I can. Add Steve to the call.
All right, hold on. Let's see if we can do this. This is the first time you're doing this too, huh?
Yeah,
Me too.
well, I'm waiting on you to third party in Steve.
All right, Stuart.
Yes.
Okay. Steve, you there? Hold on. It's not let. Oh. All right. I think I got you on now.
Steve?
Hey, Scott, how you doing, man?
Hey, we've got Steve Nicely, the president of the South Wireless Summit. Steve, talk a little bit about the South Wireless Summit.
This will be our ninth year. We'll be at the Sheraton Music City in Nashville, June 28th, 29th, and 30th. We're looking we got 800 people now. Probably going to end up over 1,000 people. Unique to this year, we've added Music Movement South, as John said earlier. We've got 4 great acts so far: Jeffrey Steele, Aaron Barker, Billy Dawson, and Craig Wallen. We're also adding 2 surprise acts that you'll get to see when you get there. Pretty much will blow your mind when you hear these 2 acts. They're diametrically opposite of what the country music is. There's just a great benefit. Music Movement takes care of the people on the autism spectrum. When they reach 18, they fall off the government rosters. So we have this Music Movement therapy that we do with people. It's so wonderful. And we're hoping we'll also be selling 500 general admission tickets to people who don't come to the summit. We also have a VIP area in the front, which will be those tickets will be sold separate from your admission to the South Summit. In addition to the South Summit this year, we'll have our traditional clay shoot, but we're moving everything outside. Everything will be under the big tent at the Sheraton Music City, and we're also changing from bowling to Top Golf this year on the 3rd floor of the Top Golf facility down on Cowan Avenue in downtown Nashville. And yesterday, I signed us up for our Tuesday night social. Will be on the 5th floor outdoors at the brand new Grand Hyatt Hotel down on Broadway and 10th Avenue. And was there this morning. A fantastic facility. I think everybody will be tickled pink that that's where we're going to be. And then Nate this year will be doing their 5G training for the South. It'll be at the South Summit on Wednesday from 9 to 4. That'll be held there at the Sheraton Music City as well. And WIA will be doing their 5G CBRS training on Monday afternoon at the hotel virtually. So it's a jam-packed event. I hope to see everybody there. And moreover, just really appreciative of all of our sponsors. I know Vertical Bridge and Intertech are our title sponsors. SMW and Cell Site Solutions are our platinum sponsors, along with another 50 sponsors that we have there on the website. So really excited about what's going on this year and looking forward to seeing everybody. I just have one question for John. Go ahead.
No. I was just going to ask Steve. What is? Could you tell us a little about what's one of the big tracks, or what's one of the big things tied in with the South Summit that's on the agenda? If you could, just that I'll be broadcasting. I know I'm going to be broadcasting the event out for those that can't make it, and we'll put that link up on LinkedIn. But what's one of the big tracks that you're going to run this year that you can kind of give us a sneak peek?
We confirmed 4 so far. We have the traditional tower panel, and we've already locked down Alex Gelman from Vertical Bridge and the CEO of, I've just drawn a blank, Hogue. But anyway,
Tillman.
For the tower panel, we're looking,
Tillman.
Well, we got Gelman and we got Hogue, and then with Tillman, yes. And then we got one more in the works, big name. Hopefully we'll get that one locked down next week. We've got a fixed rural wireless program that Bill DiAgostino is going to put on. We have smart cities that Jacobs Engineering is putting on, and then we have our regulatory panel that Marvin, Emily, and those guys are putting on as they do every year. And then we still have 2 invitations out that we're expecting to get back in the next couple of weeks. We'll get that out on the web. And then today we'll have Kerry Charles doing the WWLF panel on Monday before we do the concert, and we've got Todd Schlechtaway, who's the CEO and president of NATE, doing a keynote Monday night before we do the concert. So jam-packed agenda so far for this one.
And this will make the 9th or the 10th year?
It's supposed to be the 10th year, but we had to take a pause last year because something got in the way. But this will be our 9th year, and then we've got some big plans for next year for our 10th year celebration. So,
hey, Stuart, you can tell Steve's got his stuff together. He's already in the 10th anniversary. How awesome is that?
I mean,
I guess
it'll be gold or
I
what?
got the 2022 and the 2023 contract in my hand, so That's exciting news.
It's
That's
gonna be
great.
big.
That's great. That's great. Steve, what else is going on? You got one question. Let's let you have the floor. You were going to ask John something.
Now, I was just listening to John. I literally was driving up to Louisville today, listening to you all from about Munfordville, Kentucky, up to my house. And I had one question for John. What's the most unusual creature you've encountered out on a cell site survey? I know you've encountered ticks, and I know you've encountered monkeys, but I was wondering if you'd encountered anything else up there that's more unusual than that.
Wow, that's a good question. Hey, can I include a strange human? This is a great story.
Please,
but,
please
as far
share.
As animal, really, what sort?
Please share. Please share.
I will, man. As far as animal, right off the bat, I've seen a bobcat on a raw land. That was big. He looked at me, and I kind of looked at him, and he kept going. Of course, we've seen a few snakes, but really snakes. Everybody, I'm scared of snakes, man. Snakes hear you coming, and you make noise. They usually don't. One was basking on a rock up off Gurley Mountain one time, and he looked at me, and I'm like, all right, buddy, I won't bother you. But as far as animals, nothing crazy. I did have a crew that encountered an alligator one time down in Louisiana. That was weird.
Wow.
The guy called me up. But really, the most is humans, Steve. It's really people you deal with, man. I was up in rural Alabama, and they wanted to put this site, and I don't know why. It was on top of a mountain, and they had a trail. Like a 4-wheeler trail, and said, yeah, we can use this for the access. And so y'all want me to survey it? Yep, survey the trail. We'll expand it. We're going to put the tower on the top. This guy owned about 20 acres, but he owned a mountain, and he wanted to put a cell tower on the top. He probably wanted a good road up there too. Is probably what he wanted, So we used the 4-wheeler trail. It took us a while, and we get back down, and I try to tie in some property corners on the other side of the property, and there's this old dilapidated trailer, a little single wide trailer, and just old, didn't even know anybody lives there. And then you just feel people looking at you. I'm going down the road, and you kind of look over, and you hear something, and I just felt people looking at me, and I'm like, okay, what's going on, And, I'm aware of my surroundings. Y'all know me. I know if a train's coming, I'm aware of what's going on, especially out in rural areas. And I had my buddy in front of me. He's a big old dude working with me, about 6'4", 250, big guy. And I'm like, and all of a sudden, the trailer door opens up, and this lady starts yelling at me. She looked like she was that old crazy girl from Hee Haw, had things in her hair and a little nightgown on. She's, and I can't understand her. Oh, yes. Well, no, the little skinny one that was missing teeth, you know what I'm talking about. And then this guy starts walking out. And, he's poor old guy. He's in some clothes, and they're dirty. And then I'm like, man, he's walking straight toward me. And I'm like, well, he ain't going to do anything. I've got my machete with me. Dude's not going to, try to get aggressive. And he said, hey, man, what are y'all doing? I said, man, we're just surveying. I'm surveying for such and such. Yeah, he owns this property. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, he didn't tell me he had a tenant, He said, no, man, he just lets us live on here for free. I said, okay, great. That's fine with me. I really didn't care, The property corner was down the road. I wasn't even do anything with the trailer. I'm just walking down the road. And that lady comes out, you're here to take our property, you're here from the government, you're going to take. And I said, no, ma'am, I'm just surveying. I guess she thought because they didn't pay tax, they were squatting on this guy's land is what they were doing. And this guy was probably like, don't worry. But he didn't give us a heads up. And these people had, just squatted. I don't even know if they had, God bless them, I don't know if they had electricity. I guess they had electricity or running water. It didn't look like it, and they were just mountain people. And they thought I was coming there to take their land and kick them off the property. And and they were a little. They were be nice. They were uneducated. Let's put it that way. And I just said, look, buddy, I'm not trying to do anything with y'all. All I'm doing is just surveying. So I said, tell your mom, don't worry about it. So he goes back inside, and we finish surveying. And I'm like, God Almighty, what is going on? Where are we? And so it was late in the day. I said, Kevin, let's just come back the next day. And we came back the next day, and that poor guy, he walked out again, same clothes, same dirty clothes. Hey, man, can I help y'all today? And you give me $20 to help y'all survey? And I went, oh, God. I said, buddy, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I said, I've got $20. I said, take the $20, and go buy you some food or whatever you got to do. You know, I said, we don't need any help, but I do appreciate you asking, you know.
Yeah.
He was like, I'll carry your bag for you, and I'll do that. So that was probably one of the strangest. I mean, that was a creature, and I mean, I'm not being mean, you know. He was a human being. But poor guy, I just gave him $20, and I said, hey, man, you know, we got it. You know, we got it taken care of. But you know, when we left that job, I'm like, man, I've never met any people like that. You know, I mean, I'm from the city. You know, I mean, I've been out in the woods, but I never met a squatter. You know, that just lives out in the woods and kind of just whatever. You know, I've met a couple. That wasn't the last one. So that was something that we talked about, Stork. You know, doing surveys when you go up in the mountains of Tennessee and northeast Alabama and Georgia. I mean, you see people and they're living on land. They're just squatting. And that's why you got to be careful. You know, they come out with shotguns and they ask questions second. You know, and we've run into a couple of them. But that was just my first encounter, and it will never leave my mind. I knew exactly what he was wearing and what the lady was yelling at me, and I'm like, oh, geez, am I gonna have to call police? You know, what is going on? But I diffused the situation, and I gave him $20. You know, I was his best friend, so you know, it was worth it.
I think my most unusual one, John, was I went up to Tri-Cities to walk a site, and it was early in the morning in April, and I got there first, and they had already done the geotech, so there was a road out to the site, and I walked out to the site, looked at it, and walked back to the car, walked back out to the site, looked at it, walked to the car. Then these guys finally showed up. We walked out to the site, and the 3 times we walked to the site, you had to walk over this limb, you know, to get out to the site. And we're all standing there, and it's getting warmer, and we turn around, and that limb started moving. It was an 8-foot rattlesnake that had been stuck to the dirt when the frost set in. And so I walked over that thing 3 times, and it was just stuck to the dirt. I always remember that.
Well, you know, I've had some rattlesnakes, but it wasn't for a cell tower. It was down in Gulf Shores, and luckily, you know, it was high heather, and I was working. The guy said, get out of here. We're going to bush hog it tomorrow. And I said, what for? He's like, there's rattlesnakes there. We go back the next day. He killed 3 or 4 rattlesnakes that were big as around your forearm. In your forearm, Steve, which is the big forearm. I mean, they were big, and I cut the head off, and I put a golf ball in one of it, in the fangs, you know, and took a picture of it. And I thought, that guy probably saved my life. But, you know, the story you always tell, and I know we can't tell it in full detail, that I don't know if you ever told the story, but the site that we walked for you and Ray Brandt up in that strange area in Tennessee, there was, in Rugby. And how many ticks you think I had on me that day?
Oh, at least 400. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Stork, this is no kidding. I scraped them off with my machete. Okay, scraped them off my jeans. And we got the work done, and I started itching, I started spraying, and I was by myself. I drove back to Chattanooga, and needless to say, I took a shower, and I found a few more in some places that, you know, they shouldn't have been. And I called Steve. He starts laughing. I said, man, I was itching all the way from there to Chattanooga. You know, it was a weird place, like a utopian society, man. It was a neat place. I've never been somewhere like that.
Between Jamestown and Oneida up on the Cumberland Plateau.
If you've never been there, it's a neat place.
You remember the late Mike Wolverton? We were up at a site near Ashland City, and he had on a white golf shirt. And we got out of the site, and he got on the passenger side. I was driving, and I got back in. He got back in my car, and his shirt was black.
You don't wear white. Ticks are attracted to weird colors. You wear camouflage, believe it or not. Yeah, black or camouflage. It's weird.
And I just met Mike. He just moved from California. This was like 1997.
He probably never even seen a tick, huh?
Well, he was in Vietnam in the CIA.
Never mind.
But anyway, he threw this shirt out of my car, and I had a spare shirt in the back. I gave it to him. I took him straight home to take a shower. This shirt.
And then
back in the car. I went and set a bug ball off in that company car, so I didn't have to.
I found ticks even when I got back to Birmingham. I found a couple, like one behind me, and I'm not allergic to them. Some people are highly allergic. My daughter, it would be a red whelp, and you know, obviously you're worried about Lyme disease, and I guess my grandmother always used to say, if it's got a white dot, you're gonna get Rocky Mountain spotted fever. Y'all know your grandmother said the same thing, you know. And if it's a deer tick on, you know, it's those little bitty ticks. It's the ones those seed ticks. That's the ones you know. So you spray for them, and it's like they're attracted to it, man. It's weird, but. I don't do that much anymore, but that was the worst site, you know.
Hey, Scott, I didn't mean to come in.
No, we wanted you to stay. No, we wanted you to stay. I mean, because Tales from the Tower. I mean, we're getting some good content here. Please stay on, Steve. Don't go anywhere. What was you about to say, though?
When John Hester's phone call comes up on my phone. We have a picture. I have a picture from playing at the Ohio Wireless Golf Tournament with him and Ray Brandt and myself. And every time I see it, it makes me think of Ray and how a wonderful person he was. And we truly missed throughout the wireless industry, and he was a great friend to all of us. This was probably back in 2009, 2010 up in Ohio, and we're standing with the two women that were on the hole with us, the sponsorship.
And you always picture Ray with a cigar in his mouth, and it's
Cigar
like Downey when you think you think of Downey, you always picture Downey with a mixed drink and just smiling. You know, I mean, it's just you know, the people that we've lost. I mean, I know we've lost some more. You know, we've lost a few others. You know, I remember a big Danny Threet. You know, we lost him for he was a, you know, he was a friend. And
the three we lost in Kentucky 2 years ago with Bill Bowen and Rob and Dwayne. And that was.
We should probably do something like a memorial one day of the wireless people that are, you know, down, you know, like.
Well,
you know,
and
maybe,
then
you know, that's probably.
And then the big, what was his name? We lost last year, right.
Yeah, in Atlanta. I went brain dead. Yeah.
I did too. Yeah, he worked with Brett.
Yeah,
Brett.
Great guy. Great. Yeah, Brett. Golly, I'm going with Brett. Yeah, he was great. He was super. God, what a nice guy he was, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a nice guy. But anyway. You know.
No, Steve. I was just going to say, Steve.
Good memories.
Steve, you've built many of sites. So please tell us what's one of the weirdest places you've ever put a tower in at.
That's a good question.
Well, there's two, Scott. One's in Memphis, down in Millington. It was on a sod farm. We had an SST, and our landlord was wonderful. And then he had a brain tumor. And so then when anybody came out to the tower, he would sit over on his porch and shoot at them. Not with a shotgun, but with a rifle. So you'd have to get the Shelby County sheriff to meet you at the gate to take you in.
Oh, goodness.
The sheriff would go over and babysit our landlord and while the tower guy would work on it. And the other one's down in Shelby County, Alabama.
Hey, right here, baby.
Had a tower, and the landlord, after we built the tower, the landlord kept blocking the access road with his backhoe. He would dig a ditch and then just put his backhoe over top of it. He couldn't get to the top of the hill. And I said, okay, well, I grabbed my engineer and we'll go down there. Drove to the property, and you go around the corner, and there's 3 airstreams in a row lined up in parallel. One was his bedroom, one was his kitchen, and one was his living room. So I knocked on 2 of them before I found the right one that was his bedroom. I got all the problems resolved right there, and it's basically he just needed a little notice before somebody came on his property. So he let everybody know that by putting a backhoe in the middle of the access road.
He probably wanted a $100 bill in his pocket too, you know.
He didn't want any money. Just want a little notice.
Oh, really? Well, that's good. Well,
you see, I have a lot of valuable property here, Steve, and I just need to keep it protected. I just can't have anybody coming.
You know what that tells you? It's all about communication. It's all about just having a relationship with people. What we do, communicate what you feel, and tell people, you know, hey, this is it. Be honest with them, and you know, usually you're gonna have 9 times out of 10 you're gonna have a good conversation and a good outcome. You know, so.
Yeah, but we used to have a sales tech that worked for Verizon down in Alabama. You probably remember Scott, John McDavid.
Yeah.
Fantastic guy. And I took him down there and introduced him to the landlord. Gave him John's phone number and everything. Never had another problem after that. He just wanted recognition. So it's what all of us want.
That's right.
Just a little recognition.
Hey man, I'm here. I'm alive. I exist. Yeah.
But someone asked me the other day what the tallest cell tower ever built, and it was up in Van Buren County, 475-foot guide tower, and right there off of Highway 111. And
how tall was it?
475.
Well, you're about to build a bigger one soon.
But that's not a cell tower. But I sent my SIDAC people up there with a search ring, and they came back to me the next day and said, Steve, we can't find a piece of property that we can put a 475-foot guide tower on it. Up in Van Buren County, you can't find a piece of property that holds 475-foot guide tower. She goes, no, sir. I said, meet me here next Wednesday. I got a Jeep from the motor pool. We drove up there, and I drove right to the search ring and said, did you ever go on this driveway? She said, no. I said, down the driveway, there's a 60-acre field out there next to a pond. I said, how about that spot right there? And that's where they built it.
Sometimes you got to do your own side acting.
Well, sometimes you just got to point people.
That's right. No, that's right. you're
guys,
exactly
I just got home after being gone for a week. I'm gonna chase my wife around the parking lot for about 30 minutes, and then I will see you all
Good
next
to see
week.
you.
Yeah, Steve, we
Good to see you.
appreciate
All right, see you
you.
next
We
week.
appreciate you joining us and giving us that update, and we'll talk to you again soon. Stay on, John.
All right.
Okay.
See you. So, John, we can't thank you enough for being
worked
on
good?
this show. That was good. Yes, that was good, and we talked a lot. Let's see. Let's run back through what we covered just to make sure we got it all. We talked a little bit about the wireless associations and getting back out and doing their marketing. Oh, I know what I was going to talk about. Before we wrap it up, let's close on this subject. You know, you said it, I said it. A lot of our friends or people on the outside of the world of telecom wonder, how is it we make money, or how is it we get deals? And it looks like that you guys, all you do is go out and play golf and go to these parties and have all this fun, but there's a lot of in between in there. And you just said that key word, which brought it back up to me, and it's our relationships. You know, I've been in telecom since 1995. I've known a lot of people. Steve nicely hired me at Crown Castle, the guy that just got off the phone in 2000. I met Steve in 95. We both worked at GTE Wireless. I've known Steve a long time, but it's our long relationships, isn't it, John?
Yeah, I mean, it's people are building relationships. I mean, that's what you see. I mean, obviously, I've got a lot of childhood friends, a lot of friends from college. And when I started with Somerville with Will in '99, and Michael started, like I said, right at the same time, a month later, you know, we didn't know what a telecom. I mean, we were still doing regular surveying. I was surveying a school. But when we got in it, about 2000, 2001, I mean, for the last 20 years, that's what we've been doing. And obviously, when I started going on the road a lot more, Michael went on the road, Will, you know, we started building relationships. And we worked inward out, you know, from Alabama, then to Georgia, Tennessee, Mississippi, the Panhandle. You know, I mean, I'd never been to Tallahassee or Jacksonville or worked over there. You know, now, you know, you got like friends like Dominic in Tallahassee. I've got a lot of friends in Jacksonville. I've got friends in Nashville. I mean, I've got friends in Seattle, Washington, or San Diego, friends in Vegas. You know, I mean, I'd never been to Vegas until I went to a PCIA show, you know, in 2009. You remember those shows that they had it when it was PCIA out in Vegas. I mean, I'd never been to Vegas, you know. I just never had no reason to. I mean,
well, it's not being mean, but like you said,
you know, or whatever, you know, it's building relationships. And so for the last 20 years, I can't tell you the close relationships I have, and I've got relationships with people in other engineering companies. Sure, I do. Yeah, we may compete, but it's a friendly competition. It's not like, hey, you know, another engineer's going to come to Birmingham or whatever, try to, you know, put a office right next to S&W and take our work or whatever. Obviously, we've branched out into different locations, so we know there's overflow and people are certain different regions. But some of my best friends are other engineers. I know some other surveyors. I mean, I've got friends in the carrier business that work for a specific carrier, or the tower business, or SITAC, or whatever. Or obviously, you know, Marvin Webster and our close friends.
Right.
Environmental. I mean, I'm friends, but I'm friends with a lot of environmental people. You know, I mean, yeah, Marvin and I are pretty close, you know, like brothers, but we still use other environmental companies too. And, you know, we're all in this together. It's not a huge industry, and we've always said there's plenty of work to go around. Sure, it got slim pickings last year during COVID, and everybody was biting their nails, and what are we going to do? Are we going to have to fire people? Or are we going to have to, you know, lay off people? Or are we going to have to, what are we going to downsize? Whatever it was, and it was scary. You know, but it also happened in 9/11, which we had just getting started, and we had to lay people off. We put people on furlough and part-time employment. Now, it was different, of course. Telecom wasn't near, we all know that, what it is now.
Right.
But communication store, I mean, that's one thing. I mean, there's two things. I mean, look, alcohol sales are going to always be good. We know that. People are going to go to a bar. You know, they're going to watch college sports, maybe not pro sports. I mean, that's going to happen. You know, you're going to die. You're going to pay taxes. But you're going to communicate. And people, I mean, I've seen I shouldn't say several. I've seen a few cases that even in lower income or rural areas, maybe like the guys that I was talking about in that survey, may not even have maybe one pair of shoes to their whole name or whatever. But they got a cell phone.
Yep.
You know, especially in these other countries, too, in South America. And I mean, communication is a key. We're all integrated now with transatlantic flights and the internet. I mean, everybody's integrated, and even one little thing can affect another industry that may be unintentional. But you build relationships, and you've got friends in different parts of the country, maybe even in Canada or Mexico, maybe even you know, internationally, you know, throughout. But that's what I enjoy doing, man. I mean, I saw a guy in Charleston, hadn't seen for a little. He's in New York. And it was like, hey, buddy, what's up? And we gave each other a hug, and hadn't seen him in 6 months, but he's a friend of mine. I would have never met him, if
Right.
I was surveying in Shelby County, Alabama.
Right. Exactly.
So I really enjoy that, and I enjoy the event. Sure, I enjoy playing golf, but I don't really care. It's not about me playing golf, winning a trophy. I don't really care about that. I mean, at first year I wanted to win a couple, but now it's just being with my friends or clients that are my friends or people that I've never met before, and just getting to know them that we may can do business together. We may not, but maybe there is a service that we can provide for them or they can provide for us that can help us be more productive, down the road. You never know, man. I've met several people, and you have too, that you meet 3 years ago, and then they call you, hey, John, I met you at this golf tournament, or I met you at this event, or da-da-da-da-da, and I kept your phone. I see you around. I see you on Facebook. I see you on LinkedIn. Hey, I've got 20 sites in Alabama, or I've got 20, or I've got this and this. Can you help me with this? And I'm kind of, like we talked about, I'm kind of a go-between a lot of times. People will call me for numbers for somebody else. I get that at least, maybe not once a day, but several times a week. Hey, you got such and such number? Because they know I go to the other events, like people out west. Somebody in Georgia may want somebody's number in Arizona. And a lot of times I have it, and I just have it. I don't know. You can look people up, but I guess it's easier to call Hester and see if he's got somebody's phone number, So, and I like being that. I enjoy that. That makes me feel like, okay, cool. They know that I can help them out, and I don't mind doing it. Even if it's competitive work, I don't mind doing it. I really don't. I don't get my feelings hurt. It's not a competition. It's like, hey, you do good work, great. You do shoddy work, then, I'm not going to brag on you. Now, if you talk bad about my work and I find out, then we got an issue. Then that's unprofessional, and as well, it happens too. But the majority of the people are good-hearted people, good people, and that give the shirt off your back in this industry, the people that I've dealt with, in all genres, all ages, from the earliest, of 20s to 60s or even older, we all get along pretty much. Everybody's just trying to get, their niche, and seeing now 5G, and who knows what's beyond that, Stuart. What's going to happen in 2030? What's going to happen in 2035, 2040? It's cool to think about, but, the future's here. It really is. The future's here. So we just have to embrace it.
Well, and we still got to go down to Notasulga and do our bird hunt and everything, and I always enjoy it because it's the medium there. It's a little bit like the going to the horse track. It's a different medium than going to play golf with four people. When you go on a quail hunt, right, you can have good conversation until we get to the point where the dog has done his work, and now he's rigor mortis has set in. Now it's time to get serious. Make sure we got shells in the guns, and we're getting ready to do a little Civil War here. But I love that camaraderie part. I love the camaraderie part because it's not like we're deer hunting or turkey hunting. Everybody's got to be quiet the whole time. You can just be walking along, and all the different conversations that come up while you're walking through the woods, like you said, you learn a lot about people's childhood, where they grew up, and the things that, how they got in the industry.
Their families.
Yeah, their families.
Too,
Yeah.
I've had several people. Oh, I saw pictures of your daughter. How old is she? And well, she's 17. Oh God, I remember she was 10. And they've never met my daughter. Or just little things. That's what. Yeah, we don't always. We don't always talk about work.
No.
Work gets involved, but it's not. Hey, how many sites can I get? Can you do this work? No, that's just. Hey, this is what we do. Here's this. Hey, let's go have a. Let's go have dinner and a cocktail or whatever, or we can go play some golf together, or we can go shoot, or we can just hang out, whatever, have lunch together. And if it comes up, what we do, we know that. And I've had, it doesn't come up all the time, and that's what people think. Well, you're not working. Yes, you are working, because you're still solidifying that relationship.
Yep.
And because how many people now? I'm not trying. Yeah, I've been in the company for 22 years. You were at Crown for several years. Joey, people like that stayed at companies. Robert, a long time. But a lot of people in this industry, they'll work somewhere here for 2 or 3 years, 4 years, and they may get a different opportunity. They may work for a carrier. Next thing you know, they're working for a tower owner, and then the next, which obviously that happens a lot, right?
Yep.
And then one guy's working for an engineering company, then he may go to Site Act, and then people they move around. So you still got a relationship with somebody that maybe, they really can't, that per se, you can't do work together. You're in a total different market. Or they move from Texas to Georgia, and hey, I need some surveying and engineering or any, OSP work. Hey, I'm going to call Hester. Sure, man, we'll give you, hey, we'll bid it out. They don't have to give me the work, but we'll give you a number on it. But at least my relationship gets us in the door that, hey, maybe we'll get the work, maybe we can work a deal. The only thing I don't want to ever do is overcommit and underdeliver. I think that's the number one.
Boy, that's
peeve,
a great.
Don't overcommit and over and underdeliver, because if you do that, then you lose a little bit of that friendship gets kind of waned a little bit. Hey man, these sites were supposed to be here 2 weeks ago or 4 weeks. Then that makes it tough. So, and I'm not saying but hey, give us 20 sites, give us 30 sites, whatever, and if we can get up to it, boom, or 50 sites. But exactly, I'm just giving an example, in any case. But that's the key, too. What bothered me is these companies, and, when they get in, they got 20 employees start. Next thing you know, they got 50. Next thing you know, got 100. Oh, we're turnkey. We can do everything because everybody's going to turnkey. Oh, you can? Okay. All right. And you get some work, and, they're a month behind or 2 months behind. Or, that's on one scale. And then the other scale is the company says, oh, we're turnkey. Oh, you are? How many employees you got? 4. Well, wait a second. How can you be turnkey in here? Well, what do you do internally? Nothing. We're just, we hire people. Oh, so you're going to get me to be a part of your turnkey, and you're going to get 5 different other professions. Yeah, that doesn't work.
Sub it out.
Why would I pay middleman? Why would I pay a middleman guy? Just, I've got the relationships. You know what I mean? So that's why I did that. I didn't want to be somebody's little puppy that I'm second and third tier, or obviously we're second tier and a lot. I don't want to be third and fourth tier and have to pay a guy just because he made a phone call and introduced himself to somebody. Heck no. You get your vendorship, and this is what we do: hire us directly. Now, if we have to go through sure, it happens. But you know where it's going to, Stork. The carriers they don't want to call one guy for this, one guy for that, one lady for that, one woman for that, one man for that. They want to say, hey, can y'all handle it? And then if you can and you can deliver on time, then that's the main thing. Can you get it all done when I need it? Yes. Okay. Then boom. That's what they want. And they want you to be efficient. And obviously they don't want to pay you. They want to pay you what's fair so you don't gouge them. And then your relationship gets even more solidified. You become even better friends because you're friends on the golf course, but you're also friends in the office, per se, on the phone and doing business together. And they trust you, and that's where the trust comes. You can talk, but if you back it up, that's where it really solidifies your relationship.
Well, and here's the other thing, John. We all do it for the same price. It's not like you're doing something under the table.
Well, mostly, yeah.
But when we start talking about you step up to the table and you're going to do engineering work for Verizon Wireless, AT&T, Dish Network, or T-Mobile, you signed an agreement or some kind of construction service agreement that says, I'll do built-to-suit drawings for this price unless it's this. And everyone that comes off the reel is going to be that price more than likely because you got a word involved, a commitment involved. So, it's not like you're doing something whatever. It's like you said, you only want what you can eat at the table, and you're not going to bite off more than you can chew, because that's the dumbest thing you could do in this industry. It's like me. I've already, I was talking to Jason and Todd Boyer and those guys, and I said, 20 towers is about, that's about where I'm going to be. I'm going to be starting to drink from the fire hose, and I don't want to be at that point because, I don't mind to be, I guess what you would say, a figure that makes you excited but a little bit scared. But I don't want to be scared and laying up in bed all hours of the night worrying about if you're going to deliver on a build-to-suit because, you'll be out of business tomorrow. It'll be, gone tomorrow.
That's right. You can't meet your quota. What Michael did, and I'll brag on Michael Davis, when he
took
over officially, as when Will kind of stepped aside as the CEO and Michael became the president. Will's still the CEO, but the president and handled all the day-to-day functions. We had 44 employees, 8.5, almost 9 years ago. So, like I said, we've grown, but we hired 5 here, 5 here, 5 here. Then we acquired the guys down in Florida, like Curtis and Mike. They were working in a company on December 31st. We didn't acquire that company. That company quit doing wireless. January 1st, they started working for S&W. we had 11 employees we hired. That office has over 40 now.
Wow.
But we hired 11 was a big hire for us. 11 people, at one time.
I remember.
Hey, we need 3 drafters. We need a project manager. We're opening up another office in Texas. We need and we grew slowly. Now I'm not saying that's great for everybody, but we grew what our needs when our needs. Services were needed, and we needed people. We just didn't go hire a bunch of people off LinkedIn or whatever and just say, well, we got all these people, now y'all give us work. We took the work and then determined, we need to get a few more people to meet the needs, and when we do get those people, then we'll commit, right? Give us a little piece, but once we get these people in place and we know we can handle it, okay, good. Now we can go up from 20 to 30 or 40, whatever the case may be, and that was Michael's approach. That was really, I'll give Michael Davis kudos, because that was a great approach, and what it also did, Stork, like when the slowdown in 08 and 09, when the economic recession kind of happened, you got 150 employees and that happened, man, you got to lay people off. So we have subs. We have a lot of subs that want to be subs in 1099. Right. So they understand if the work slows down, God forbid another terrorist attack or something happens with the economy, those subs, well, they're not full-time employees. They'll have to find other work. We want to keep them, but we've got to take care of our employees first. So the subs get overflow work, right? Well, when it pulls back, the subs don't have that work and they go to permanent employees. But, that's the subs' decision most of the time. They want to work for themselves and work at home. Well, of course, everybody's working at home now a lot, but they want to do their own, they do their tax write-off. That's fine. They don't need insurance. So we've done that too. It's their choice. If they come to us and say they want to be a permanent and we got a position, sure. But we didn't want to get that way. We didn't want to be so big that if something happened instantaneous, like a 9/11 or whatever happened, a war broke out or the economy just pulled back real quick, we didn't want all those people, to go, man, we don't have any work for you. Sorry, I know you've been an employee for 12 years or you've been at SMW for 10 years or 15 or 13 or 8, whatever it was, even 6 months or a year, and we have to just let you go. And we did a good job with COVID, and we were lucky. We were fortunate to get some PPP, and it was a tough situation, but it was, luckily, we're going strong, and I think everybody's bouncing back. I know some companies that didn't make it, and you do too. Even in the wireless industry, I know some people that had to shut the doors and cut a third and a half of their staff. We got lucky. But that's kind of a toss up. It's just, you just never know when an emergency happens or something like that happens.
You was talking about starting up that.
Be prepared.
You was talking about starting up that Florida office. When you brought them on and y'all made the opening speech, we stepped out on the back there at International Course of Florida Wireless, 2016.
Exactly.
We stepped right out there on the back, and Michael said, Stork, say something about SMW. And you said, I'm going to have Stork say something about SMW. He's kind of third party, but he's worked with us a long time. And Stork say something about SMW. And I just said, you guys are going to work for a great bunch, 2 great guys. You're going to have a lot of fun. No worries. Yep. They're going to take this office over and they're going to grow it, and I'll introduce the president of SMW. Yeah, and just look, and those 11, 12, I think were at that golf tournament that night for that reception.
There was a lot, yeah.
And
they were. I think it was 10 or 11, and Curtis Akova, or Chova. I forgot.
Don't worry about it.
And then Mike Murphy is our director down there. Mike was at Caltrop, and they were all.
Yep.
They were friends with Shane Archuleta, who works for us and does a great job. He's out of Davis, Oklahoma. He and of course Steve Manuel's with us now. But all those guys, man, when they came over, they were just so, because they felt like they were not kind of, Caltrop they never got a phone call, never got like
on an island
or hats or thank yous, and like I don't even know if they got a Christmas bonus. And I said, guys, it's a little different. I said, I'm gonna come down and see you, Michael. I said, we're gonna get you some SMW stuff. We're gonna be active with you, not but we're gonna be face to face with. We'll fly down. I'll drive down. Whatever I gotta do. And they were like, man, it's just in the first year they were like, wow, this is a total difference. Now they've taken the bulls by the horn. And now they've got, like I said, we got 40 people down there, and not a lot of people even know we had an office in Tampa. We didn't. We put it on our website, but by the word of mouth, and then we just kind of grew that slowly too with T-Mobile, Verizon.
Yep.
We do a fair bit of Verizon work. Some tower work. Curtis called me earlier today. He got some work for us down there
Good
on
stuff.
some macro. I think that's wonderful. And just out of the blue because somebody he knew, and great. That was wonderful. I was like, man, that's so awesome. So it's self-sustaining, but we all work together, and if you have Texas and Birmingham and Tampa, that's 3 different locations. So we all have a company meeting, and a phone call. I don't get on it much, but they conference in, and everybody communicates. You look what we're dealing with. We've got phones, we've got computers, we've got iPad, you can email, boom, boom, boom. Everybody can be. It doesn't matter if you're next door or 300 miles away. There's no reason not to communicate and share ideas and share work and whatnot. So it's working out, so far so good. And everybody's got a positive attitude, and that's the key too. You got to keep your employees happy. You know that.
Absolutely, John. We've had a good one here and everything. Anything else you want to say before we skedaddle? It's coming up on about 2 hours. We've been on the air, you and I, just having a big time. But I've enjoyed it. Hopefully you've enjoyed it, and you'll be willing to come back on the air with us again.
Yeah, man. I did, brother. I appreciate you asking about the survey. That's the first. I don't talk about surveying a lot. I do with my guys, but I don't, bring it up a lot, in the industry.
Well, I didn't know if you...
but the intricate details, that's pretty cool. I enjoyed that.
So here's the big deal. So Todd is going to let me roll up there to do that little survey we got to do in Eastern Kentucky for Mom. I'm going with you guys. And I'm going to help out and everything, and Boyer and them are letting me go up there to do my second edition of Survey 202. Yeah, and I'm going to get to walking. I'm going to learn something. I know I am. Not only because it's my own property, of my family's, but I'm also going to get to learn something about surveying and doing a surveying that on a piece of property that's That's probably the survey was
recorded. You gonna bring your camera and stuff?
Yes. We're gonna do some posting. We're gonna do some posting. We're gonna do some stuff and do some marketing when we're up there in the field and learning and everything. You're coming, aren't you?
Great. Oh yeah, I'll be there, man. Yeah,
good.
David McKinney, he's our survey director, really, of all the 3 offices. David runs our whole thing. He's licensed in Kentucky. He's from Tazewell, Tennessee, up there.
Okay. Yeah.
Cumberland Gap. So obviously he's familiar with, but he's licensed in Kentucky, and he runs our whole survey department.
He's not going to be.
We have Blue McCoy and
John.
Lee,
He is not far.
You've met David. He's a good dude.
He's not far. He's not far from this property. He's probably 2 hours from his doorstep in Tazewell to where we're going to survey this property. So yeah, it's going to be fun.
Really?
Yeah. I know exactly where he is.
I didn't know that. Well, he's still got relatives up there, so he may even stop by and see him. But what I was going to say, he's going to go with us. We'll have to schedule something, and 3 or 4 weeks or whatever. We'll have to go up on a Friday, and we'll do that. And that'll be a lot of fun. It'll be it'll be really fun and entertaining, but also informative as well. But hey, I just wanted to say, man, thank you, brother. I appreciate you calling me. I mean, it was fun. We have our conversations. We get to talking, and we get off so many subjects, and it's really enjoyable, and I appreciate it, and I enjoyed being on there, and Steve calling in. But I want to thank you again for coming down to Coach Dye's, because Coach Dye had a special place in his heart for you, and he was a special guy, and that brought back a lot of good memories, and that's what friendship's about and relationships. It wasn't about work, that, but I appreciate you videoing it and putting it on, and people are like, man, that looks cool. I'd love to do that. I've taken a few people, and we've taken a lot of clients in the past, and everybody that has gone is like, man, that was a great experience. That was, was once in a lifetime or whatever. And especially when Coach Dye was alive and he got to tell us the stories, that really, I'll never forget that. So I wanted to say thanks for your friendship, brother, and I appreciate everything. And, I'll see you soon for sure, and we'll make plans later.
All right, John, we'll talk to you soon.
All right, brother.
See you. Goodbye. Okay, that was John Hester on the A Man Who Truly Delivers show. We hope you enjoyed that. We've been on the air for right at about 2 hours, and I really think that's about enough. I don't have much more going on. We've had a really, really good call, and we wrapped it up on a Friday. We're going to come back next month with a Man Who Truly Delivers show, and we hope you'll join us then. But until then, if you have any ideas, suggestions, comments, or anything, please instant message me. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn, through Facebook, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram, I'm on all the social media. You can find me, or just Google Stork Montgomery, and I will pop up on the first 6 pages. Until next month, we will see you then, and stay safe.